Hey, so tonight we're going to experience life as a Paleolithic firekeeper in what's now southern France, about 40,000 years ago. And I mean really live it, not the Hollywood caveman version with dinosaurs and clubs, but the actual sophisticated, artistic, deeply social world of our Cro-Magnon ancestors. These weren't brutish cave dwellers, they were skilled artisans, careful observers of nature, and masters of survival in an Ice Age world. Oh, and if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. Super curious where you're all listening from. So, drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Always blows my mind how people are falling asleep to this all over the world. Alright, find that cozy spot. Take a nice slow breath and just let your body sink into whatever you're lying on. We're heading back 40,000 years, to a time when Europe was locked in ice, when massive herds of mammoth and reindeer roamed vast grasslands, and when every day was a careful balance between survival and beauty. And trust me, you're going to be real grateful for your thermostat and grocery store by the time we're done. So, congratulations! You've just awakened in your family's cave as the designated firekeeper, the most trusted role in your small band of 30 people. The responsibility of keeping everyone alive through the cold night rests in your capable hands. You wake slowly as the first pale light filters through the cave entrance, though calling it morning is generous in this Ice Age world, full daylight is brief and precious. Your body knows immediately that something is different. The fire. You can feel its absence even before you open your eyes, that subtle shift in temperature, the missing crackle and pop of burning wood. Your eyes open to see the fire pit reduced to a bed of glowing coals, still radiating heat but dangerously low. A flutter of anxiety passes through your chest. This is your one sacred duty, the one that keeps your family alive. You breathe deeply, steadying yourself. The coals are still good. You have time. Around you, the cave breathes with the soft sounds of sleeping people. Your sister's baby makes small sucking sounds against her chest. Your uncle snores gently from his sleeping fur near the back wall. The elderly woman who remembers more plant knowledge than anyone else shifts in size in her dreams. 29 other heartbeats, 29 lives depending on the warmth you'll coax back to life. You sit up slowly, your body stiff from sleeping on the packed earth floor despite the thick layers of mammoth hide beneath you. The air inside the cave holds the scent of wood smoke, animal skins, and the deep mineral smell of limestone. But threading through it all is that sharp bite of cold, the relentless Ice Age cold that waits just outside your circle of warmth. Your bare feet touch the cave floor, and you feel the carefully swept dirt, free of stones and debris. Your grandmother taught you this: a clean cave floor means no surprises in the dark, no twisted ankles when tending the fire. The soles of your feet, tough from a lifetime without shoes, barely register the coolness of the earth. You reach for the carefully sorted pile of tinder beside your sleeping place. Dry grass, shredded bark, the finest wood shavings prepared yesterday evening as part of the eternal cycle of fire maintenance. Your fingers know each texture without looking: the whisper-soft inner bark of birch trees, the crispy dryness of last summer's grass seed heads, the delicate curls of wood scraped with a flint blade. The fire pit is lined with stones, each one carefully selected and placed. Not just any stones, some rocks explode when heated, sending dangerous fragments flying. These are river stones, granite and basalt that have proven themselves safe through countless fires. The arrangement isn't random either. Larger stones form a wind barrier on the cave entrance side, while smaller ones create perfect supports for cooking implements. You kneel beside the coals, feeling their heat against your face and chest. The warmth is intoxicating after the cool air of waking. These coals represent an unbroken chain stretching back through your tribe's memory, fire passed from keeper to keeper, never allowed to die completely. Some say this same fire has burned for 50 winters, tended by your grandmother's grandmother's grandmother. Working by feel and instinct, you arrange the finest tinder over the brightest coals. A gentle breath, not too much, not too little. The tinder glows, smokes, and suddenly erupts into flame. That moment never gets old, that magical transformation from dormant coal to dancing fire. Your ancestors believed fire was alive, and watching it grow, you understand why. Now comes the delicate work of building up the fire. Too fast, and you'll smother the flames. Too slow, and the tinder will burn away to nothing. You add slightly larger pieces, thin twigs, strips of bark, small wood chips. Each addition requires patience and attention. Fire, you learned long ago, cannot be rushed. The flames grow stronger, casting their first real light around the cave. The walls come alive with dancing shadows and the faint hint of ancient paintings, handprints in red ochre, the outline of a mammoth, the silhouette of a horse. These aren't just decorations, they're sacred images, connections to the spirit world that your people believe inhabits everything around you. As the fire strengthens, you add larger pieces of wood. Each stick is known to you where it came from, how long it's been drying, how it will burn. The birch burns bright and quick, perfect for getting flames going. The oak burns slow and steady, ideal for overnight coals. The pine gives sweet-smelling smoke but can be resinous and unpredictable. Every piece of fuel is precious, collected through careful foraging expeditions that take you far from the safety of the cave. The growing light reveals your world in greater detail. The cave extends back about 30 feet, with multiple chambers and alcoves where families create private spaces with hanging skins and carefully arranged belongings. The main chamber, where you tend the fire, serves as kitchen, workshop, meeting place, and heart of your community. Near the fire, you see the tools of daily life arranged with careful precision. Flint knapping stations where the men work stone into knives, scrapers, and spear points, each strike requiring skill developed over years of practice. Sewing areas where women use bone needles and sinew thread to create and repair the clothing that keeps everyone alive in this frozen world. Food preparation areas with grinding stones, cutting boards made from flat rocks, and storage baskets woven from plant fibers. The fire is burning well now, strong enough to begin your morning responsibilities. First, water. You lift a skin bag, actually a complete stomach from a reindeer, carefully cleaned and waterproofed, and pour water into a carved wooden bowl. Not just any water, this came from a spring your people have used for generations, a place where the water stays liquid even in the deepest cold. You lower a heated stone from the fire's edge into the water, watching it hiss and steam. Rock boiling, one of humanity's first cooking technologies. The stone heats the water without the need for fireproof containers. The process is meditative. Select the right stone, heat it properly, transfer it carefully, wait for the correct temperature. Too hot, and you'll crack your wooden bowl. Too cool, and the water won't be warm enough for the morning tea your people rely on. The tea isn't recreational, it's medicine and nutrition combined. Pine needle tea provides vital nutrients that prevent scurvy. Rosehip tea offers precious vitamins. Willow bark tea eases the constant aches and pains of physical life. Your people discovered these benefits through generations of careful observation and experimentation, developing a sophisticated understanding of plant medicine that would impress modern herbalists. As you prepare the tea, others begin to stir. Your mother sits up first, as mothers do, already alert and assessing the needs of her family. She catches your eye and nods approval. The fire is strong, the water is heating, her child has done well. That small acknowledgement fills you with quiet pride. Your older brother emerges from his sleeping area, stretching muscles that will soon be put to hard use. Today is a hunting day, you can tell by the way he immediately checks his spears, running practiced fingers along the flint points, testing the binding that holds stone to wooden shaft. A loose spear point could mean the difference between a successful hunt and a dangerous encounter with wounded prey. The baby's crying brings your sister fully awake, and she immediately begins the morning routine of nursing and care. Babies in this world face challenges yours would never imagine, yet they're cherished beyond measure. Each child represents the future of your small band, precious hope in an uncertain world. Your uncle, the band's best tracker, moves to the cave entrance and stands perfectly still, listening to the world outside. His trained ears can distinguish between the morning calls of different birds, the movement of various animals, the subtle sounds that indicate weather changes. This daily listening session provides crucial information for planning the day's activities. The elderly woman who serves as your people's memory keeper begins her own morning routine, checking the dried plants hanging from cave walls, organizing the tools and materials used for medicine and ceremony, muttering the stories and songs that preserve your culture's knowledge. In a world without writing, she is a living library. You notice the subtle ways your people manage their shared space. Everyone moves with consideration for others, keeping voices low so as not to disturb those still sleeping. Personal belongings are kept organized and out of common areas. Food is shared according to complex but unspoken rules that ensure everyone receives fair portions. These aren't rules imposed by authority, they're cultural practices developed over generations of small group living. The fire now burns bright enough to begin food preparation. Your people eat 2 main meals, one in the morning to provide energy for the day's work, and one in the evening to restore strength and create social bonding time. Food preparation is a community activity, with different people contributing different skills. Today's morning meal will feature dried meat from the successful mammoth hunt 3 weeks ago. The meat was carefully preserved using techniques passed down through generations, some smoked, some dried in thin strips, some mixed with fat and berries to create pemmican. This preservation knowledge represents thousands of years of experimentation and refinement. The dried meat requires careful preparation. It's tough and needs to be either ground into powder or slowly cooked until tender. You watch your mother begin the grinding process, using a specialized stone tool, a round grinding stone and flat base that creates perfectly uniform powder. The rhythmic sound of stone on stone provides a comforting morning percussion. Meanwhile, your sister begins preparing roots that were gathered and stored last autumn. These aren't the potatoes and carrots familiar to modern people, but wild tubers, bulbs, and storage roots that require knowledge and skill to locate, harvest, and process safely. Some wild roots are poisonous if not prepared correctly, making this knowledge literally life or death important. The root preparation involves multiple steps. First, inspection, checking each root for signs of rot or insect damage. Then cleaning, scraping away dirt and outer skins with sharp flint tools. Some roots require soaking to remove bitter compounds, others need grinding or pounding to make them digestible. Your sister's hands work with the efficiency of long practice, each movement precise and purposeful. As the food preparation continues, you maintain the fire with automatic attention. Adding wood at regular intervals, adjusting the arrangement to control heat and smoke, moving coals to create different temperature zones for different cooking needs. Fire tending is both art and science, requiring constant awareness and adjustment. The cave gradually fills with the sounds and smells of morning activity. Conversation begins, low-voiced discussions about the day's plans, gentle teasing between siblings, the soft murmur of parents speaking to children. The language itself would sound strange to modern ears, but the tones and rhythms are completely familiar, the universal sounds of family life. Your grandfather begins his morning ritual of tool maintenance. In a world where manufactured goods don't exist, every tool must be constantly maintained, repaired, or replaced. Spear points require sharpening, wooden handles need checking for cracks, leather bindings must be inspected for wear. This isn't busy work, a failed tool in a critical moment could mean death. The sharpening process is meditative. Using a fine-grained stone, your grandfather works along the edge of a flint knife, removing tiny chips and maintaining the precise angle that creates maximum sharpness. The sound is gentle but distinctive, the soft scraping of stone on stone, punctuated by pauses as he tests the edge with his thumb. Years of experience guide his hands, creating edges sharper than most modern steel knives. You watch your youngest cousin practice with a small bow, shooting blunt arrows at targets made from twisted grass. Hunting skills must be developed from childhood, not just the physical techniques but the mental discipline, patience, focus, the ability to remain perfectly still for long periods. Even play activities in your world serve practical purposes. The morning light grows stronger, revealing details of your cave home that darkness had hidden. The walls aren't rough cave surfaces but carefully shaped and smoothed areas where your people have worked to create more comfortable living spaces. Natural ledges serve as shelves for tools and personal belongings. Alcoves have been enlarged to create private sleeping areas. The floor isn't random dirt but carefully prepared living surface. Soft areas have been lined with flat stones to create stable pathways. Sleeping areas are layered with increasingly fine materials, first larger stones for drainage, then smaller pebbles, then sand, then dried grasses, finally the precious fur sleeping robes that took months to prepare. Near the cave entrance, you notice the weather monitoring system your people have developed. Certain stones change color when humidity rises, indicating incoming storms. The behavior of wind currents through specific cave openings provides information about wind direction and strength. Even the way sound carries from the outside gives clues about atmospheric conditions. Your people aren't simply reacting to weather, they're predicting it, planning around it, using sophisticated observation skills to stay ahead of the dangerous changes that Ice Age weather can bring. This knowledge represents thousands of years of careful observation, passed down through oral tradition and direct teaching. The hunting party begins its final preparations. Each hunter checks his equipment with ritualistic thoroughness: spears, atlatls, spear throwers that multiply throwing power, knives, emergency fire-starting materials, extra clothing. Nothing is left to chance because there are no second chances in the frozen wilderness outside. The spears themselves are marvels of Stone Age technology. The wooden shafts are made from carefully selected wood, seasoned for optimal strength and flexibility. The flint points are shaped with incredible precision, each chip removed with purposeful strikes that create sharp, durable cutting edges. The binding that holds point to shaft uses sinew and plant fibers, creating a connection stronger than most modern adhesives. Your uncle, as lead tracker, begins the mental preparation that hunting requires. He reviews what he knows about animal movements in this area, the locations of water sources, the terrain features that funnel animal travel into predictable patterns. Hunting isn't about randomly searching for prey, it's about understanding animal behavior and positioning yourself where success is most likely. The women who aren't participating in today's hunt begin preparing for their own critical activities. Gathering plant foods requires its own specialized knowledge: where to find edible plants, how to identify them correctly when they're at peak nutritional value, how to harvest them sustainably so the resource continues to be available. Your older sister organizes the gathering baskets, checking them for damage that could result in lost food. These aren't simple containers but carefully woven tools, with different designs for different purposes. Some have tight weaves for small seeds, others have larger openings for bulky items, still others have special shapes that make certain types of harvesting easier. The tools for plant gathering are as specialized as hunting equipment. Digging sticks with fire-hardened points for extracting roots. Sharp stone knives for cutting stems and leaves. Grinding stones small enough to be portable for processing certain seeds on location. Bark containers for collecting berries without crushing them. As the morning progresses, you find yourself responsible for more than just fire maintenance. Food preparation requires constant heat management: higher temperatures for cooking meat, lower temperatures for warming preserved foods, steady moderate heat for making the morning tea that everyone depends on. The tea-making process itself is a small ceremony. Different plants require different steeping times and temperatures. Pine needles give up their vitamins quickly but become bitter if oversteeped. Rose hips need longer extraction to release their stored nutrients. Willow bark requires careful preparation to avoid making the tea too strong, which can cause stomach upset. You watch your grandmother demonstrate the proper technique, her movements economical and practiced. The heated stone goes into the water at exactly the right temperature. The plant materials are added in specific order. The steeping time is measured not by modern clocks but by other activities: the time it takes to sharpen a knife, the duration of a specific song, the number of breaths taken while sitting quietly. The resulting tea isn't the recreational beverage of modern life but serious medicine. Each person receives the specific blend their body needs: more willow bark for those with joint pain, extra rose hips for the pregnant women, concentrated pine needle tea for anyone showing signs of nutritional deficiency. The social dynamics of tea distribution reveal the complex relationships within your band. Certain individuals receive their portions first, not because of dominance but because of respect for age, knowledge, or current physical needs. The pregnant women and nursing mothers receive special attention. The elderly get help if their hands are too stiff to hold the drinking vessels comfortably. Meanwhile, the fire requires constant attention. The flames must be maintained at the proper height, high enough to provide good heat and light, not so high as to waste precious fuel or create dangerous conditions inside the cave. The arrangement of burning wood affects both heat distribution and smoke production, and smoke management is crucial in an enclosed space. Your people have learned to manage cave smoke through careful fire construction and understanding of air currents. Certain types of wood produce less smoke, others burn cleaner but require more frequent tending. The fire's position in the cave takes advantage of natural drafts that carry smoke toward the entrance rather than deeper into living spaces. The smoke itself serves purposes beyond just being a byproduct of fire. It helps preserve meat and hides hanging in the cave's upper reaches. It drives away insects and small vermin that might otherwise compete for stored food. The scent of wood smoke marks this as human territory, potentially deterring some animal visitors. As morning activities continue, you become aware of the complex scheduling that governs your people's daily life. Different activities require different combinations of people, tools, and conditions. Hunting parties need specific weather conditions and must coordinate with the behavior patterns of target animals. Gathering expeditions depend on plant growth cycles and seasonal availability. Tool maintenance fits around other activities when materials and expertise are available. Your role as firekeeper places you at the center of this complex web of activities. The fire provides the heat needed for tool maintenance, the light required for detailed work, the energy for food preparation, and the social focus around which community activities organize. Maintaining the fire isn't just a technical task, it's a social responsibility. The hunters finish their preparations and gather around the fire for a brief ceremony before departure. This isn't superstition but practical psychology, a moment of group focus that reinforces cooperation and shared purpose. The ceremony includes elements that modern people might recognize: statements of intention, expressions of mutual support, and acknowledgement of the risks involved. Your uncle, as hunt leader, reviews the plan once more. The target is a herd of reindeer that tracks indicate are moving through a valley 2 hours walk from the cave. The hunting strategy involves positioning hunters at specific locations to channel the animals toward a natural trap, a narrow passage between rock formations where spears can be thrown from close range. The plan requires precise timing and coordination. Each hunter knows exactly where he should be and when, what his specific role involves, and how to adapt if conditions change. This isn't improvisation but carefully rehearsed teamwork, developed through years of hunting together and learning from both successes and failures. As the hunters prepare to leave, you add specific woods to the fire that will create long-lasting coals perfect for maintaining warmth during their absence. The wood selection isn't random. Oak and hickory burn slowly and steadily, while birch and pine burn hot but quickly. The art lies in creating a fire that will maintain itself with minimal attention while still being ready for immediate use when needed. The departure of the hunting party changes the social dynamics within the cave. The remaining people reorganize their activities around different priorities: food preservation, toolmaking, child care, and the endless maintenance tasks that keep your community functioning. Your mother begins working on a hide that's been soaking in a solution of water and oak bark for several days. Leather preparation is one of the most time-consuming and technically demanding tasks in your society. The process involves multiple stages, each requiring specific timing and conditions. First, the fresh hide must be cleaned of all meat and fat, work that's physically demanding and requires sharp tools and careful technique. Then comes the soaking process, using plant-based solutions that help break down the proteins that make untreated hide stiff and unusable. Different solutions produce different leather qualities, softer for clothing, tougher for toolmaking, waterproof for certain specialized uses. After soaking comes the scraping process, removing the loosened material and beginning to thin the hide to the proper thickness. This work requires specialized tools, scrapers made from flint or bone, shaped to remove material without cutting through the hide. The angle and pressure must be exactly right, learned through years of practice and careful instruction from experienced leather workers. You watch your mother work, her movements smooth and efficient despite the physical demands of the task. She tests the hide's progress by feel, checking flexibility and thickness with her experienced hands. The work is meditative, requiring focus and patience but leaving the mind free for conversation and reflection. The rhythm of hide scraping provides a gentle background sound that mixes with other cave activities, the soft grinding of stone tools being sharpened, the whispered conversations of women working on detailed sewing projects, the quiet play sounds of children practicing adult skills through games. Your youngest brother sits nearby, practicing knot tying with strips of plant fiber. This isn't simple play but serious education. The ability to create secure, appropriate knots is essential for everything from toolmaking to shelter construction to clothing repair. Different knots serve different purposes, and each must be learned thoroughly enough to be tied correctly even in darkness or under stress. The knot tying practice involves increasingly complex challenges. First, basic knots that hold firmly under tension. Then specialized knots for specific purposes, ones that tighten under load but can still be untied when necessary, others that create loops or joining points, still others designed to be adjusted or released quickly. Each knot has its proper use, and using the wrong knot in a critical situation could have serious consequences. Meanwhile, your sister continues her sewing project, repairing winter clothing before the cold season becomes more severe. The sewing itself is done with needles made from bone or antler, carefully shaped and polished to create smooth tools that won't damage the materials they're working with. The thread isn't cotton or modern synthetic but sinew, animal tendons that have been processed into strong, flexible strands. Preparing sinew thread requires knowledge and skill. The tendons must be cleaned, dried, and split into threads of the right thickness for different purposes. Thick threads for heavy-duty repairs, fine threads for detailed work, specialized preparations for waterproof seams. The sewing patterns themselves represent generations of refinement. Clothing must provide warmth and protection while allowing freedom of movement for essential activities. Seam placement affects both durability and comfort. Construction techniques determine how well garments will hold up under the physical demands of Ice Age life. You notice how your sister tests each seam as she works, gently stressing the connection to make sure it will hold under real-world conditions. This isn't decorative sewing but engineering, creating functional items that lives depend on. A failed seam in winter clothing could mean frostbite or death from exposure. The fire requires attention again, and you add carefully selected pieces of wood to maintain optimal heat distribution. The flames need to be bright enough to provide good working light but not so intense as to make the cave uncomfortably warm. Balancing these requirements requires constant small adjustments and awareness of changing conditions. As you tend the fire, you become aware of the sounds from outside the cave, wind moving through the rocks, the distant calls of birds, the subtle sounds that indicate what kinds of weather changes might be approaching. Your people live by these natural indicators, reading the environment for information that helps them plan activities and stay safe. The wind sounds particularly tell your trained ears about temperature and humidity changes. Certain wind patterns precede storms, others indicate clearing weather. The direction and intensity of air movement affects everything from hunting success to the comfort level inside the cave. Bird calls provide another source of environmental information. Different species become active at different times and under different conditions. Some birds call warnings when predators are moving through the area. Others indicate the presence of food sources or changes in weather patterns. Learning to interpret these natural communications takes years of careful listening and observation. Your grandfather begins telling stories while he works on tool maintenance, and the cave fills with the ancient rhythms of oral tradition. These aren't entertainment in the modern sense but education disguised as pleasure, stories that contain vital information about survival, social cooperation, spiritual beliefs, and cultural values. The stories follow patterns refined over generations of telling. Key information is repeated in memorable ways, embedded in narrative structures that make it easy to recall. Survival knowledge is presented through characters who face similar challenges, providing both information and emotional preparation for difficult situations. But the stories serve social purposes as well, creating shared cultural references that bind the community together. Everyone knows the same stories, understands the same references, shares the same cultural framework for interpreting experience. In a world without books or schools, storytelling is both education and social bonding. As your grandfather speaks, you notice how his voice automatically adjusts to the cave's acoustics, using the natural resonance to carry his words clearly to everyone present. This isn't conscious technique but learned behavior, developed through years of speaking in enclosed spaces and understanding how to use the environment to support communication. The stories themselves contain multiple layers of meaning. On the surface, they're engaging narratives about heroes and adventures. At a deeper level, they contain practical information about survival techniques, social relationships, and spiritual beliefs. The deepest level involves cultural values and worldview, fundamental assumptions about how reality works and how people should live. You find yourself simultaneously listening to the story and monitoring the fire, your attention divided between immediate practical concerns and the rich cultural content being shared. This kind of multitasking is natural in your world, where survival requires constant awareness of multiple factors while still participating fully in community life. The fire's behavior tells you about conditions outside the cave. Changes in how the flames dance indicate shifts in air pressure and wind direction. The way smoke moves reveals information about temperature differences between the cave interior and the outside world. Even the way the wood burns provides clues about humidity and weather patterns. Your people have learned to read these natural signs with the same skill that modern people read written text. Every environmental indicator has meaning, every change in natural patterns carries information that could be important for survival. This knowledge isn't mystical but practical, the accumulated observations of thousands of generations who depended on understanding their environment for survival. As the morning progresses toward midday, the cave's population shifts again. Some people leave for gathering expeditions, others settle in for detailed craftwork that requires sustained attention. The social dynamics adjust to accommodate different activities and the changing needs of community members. Your mother finishes the initial stage of hide processing and moves to food preparation activities. Today's midday meal will be simpler than the morning meal, preserved foods that don't require extensive cooking, supplemented by fresh items gathered this morning by early foragers. The preserved foods represent your people's sophisticated understanding of food storage and nutrition. Different preservation methods serve different purposes and create foods with different nutritional profiles and storage characteristics. Smoked meat provides protein and keeps well but is high in salt. Dried fruit offers concentrated energy and essential vitamins but must be eaten relatively quickly once exposed to moisture. The balance of different preserved foods in the daily diet isn't random but carefully planned to provide complete nutrition despite the limitations of Ice Age food sources. Your people understand, through generations of trial and error, which combinations of foods provide the nutrients needed for health and energy. Food preparation itself is a social activity, with different people contributing different skills and knowledge. The elderly provide guidance based on experience, younger adults do the physical work, children learn through observation and simple tasks. Everyone participates according to their abilities and developmental stage. You watch your cousin practice cutting techniques with a sharp flint knife, working under careful supervision to develop the precision and safety awareness that skilled food preparation requires. The blade is incredibly sharp, sharper than most modern steel knives, but also brittle and potentially dangerous if misused. The cutting technique involves specific hand positions and blade angles designed to maximize efficiency while minimizing the risk of injury. The stone blade can create cuts far more serious than steel knives because of its incredible sharpness, making proper technique essential for safety. As your cousin works, you notice the automatic way experienced adults position themselves to provide help if needed without interfering with the learning process. This balance between safety and independence is characteristic of child rearing in your culture. Children are given real responsibility and allowed to develop genuine competence, but within carefully structured situations that minimize serious risks. The fire needs attention again, and you begin the process of banking coals for the long afternoon period when many people will be away from the cave. This requires arranging the fire so it will burn steadily with minimal attention while still being ready for immediate use when people return. Banking coals is both art and science, requiring understanding of how different woods burn, how airflow affects combustion, and how to arrange fuel for optimal burning patterns. The goal is to create a fire that will maintain itself for several hours while producing steady heat and being ready to flame up quickly when new fuel is added. You select larger pieces of hardwood that will burn slowly and steadily, arranging them over a bed of well-established coals. The arrangement allows air to circulate enough to maintain combustion but not so much that the wood burns too quickly. Cover the arrangement partially with ash to slow the burning rate while keeping the coals alive. The process requires predicting how the fire will behave over the next several hours based on current conditions and the characteristics of available fuel. Too conservative, and the fire might die out, requiring difficult rekindling. Too aggressive, and valuable fuel will be wasted while potentially creating unsafe conditions in an unattended cave. As you work with the fire, you're aware of the broader rhythm of daily life cycling around you. The hunting party is somewhere in the wilderness, using skills and knowledge developed over generations to provide food for the community. The gathering parties are applying equally sophisticated knowledge to harvest plant foods that provide essential nutrition. The people remaining in the cave are maintaining the home base that makes all other activities possible. Your role as firekeeper places you at the center of this complex system. The fire you maintain provides the heat that makes tool maintenance possible, the light that enables detailed work, the cooking capability that turns raw materials into nutritious food, and the social focus that helps maintain community cohesion. The responsibility isn't burden but honor, recognition that you possess the knowledge, skill, and reliability needed for one of the most critical tasks in your people's survival. The fire connects your small band to the larger human story, representing the control of energy that makes civilization possible. As afternoon approaches, you settle into the meditative routine of fire tending, monitoring, adjusting, maintaining optimal conditions with minimal intervention. The work is both demanding and relaxing, requiring constant attention while leaving the mind free for reflection and observation. Around you, the cave holds the quiet activities of people engaged in detailed work, the soft sounds of crafting, the gentle murmur of conversation, the rhythmic noises of various maintenance tasks. These sounds create a peaceful backdrop that speaks of security, competence, and the deep satisfaction of work that directly contributes to community survival. The fire burns steadily, its light dancing on cave walls that hold the artistic expressions of your ancestors, handprints in red ochre, animal figures outlined in charcoal, abstract symbols whose meanings are known only to the initiated. These images connect you to the long chain of human experience, reminding you that others have faced similar challenges and found ways to not just survive but create beauty. In the growing afternoon light, you can see deeper into the cave where the most precious possessions are stored, sacred objects used in ceremonies, specialized tools that take months to create, stores of the most valuable materials like high-quality flint and rare pigments. These items represent accumulated wealth in a society where wealth means knowledge, skill, and the tools needed to apply them effectively. The afternoon passes peacefully, the fire burning steadily under your attentive care. You add fuel at regular intervals, adjust the arrangement to maintain optimal heat distribution, and monitor the coal bed that will provide the foundation for evening activities. The work has become second nature, allowing your mind to drift into the contemplative state that long-term fire tending naturally produces. As the day progresses toward evening, you begin to hear the sounds that indicate people returning from their various expeditions. Distant voices calling greetings, the sound of footsteps on rocky ground, the subtle changes in the cave's acoustics that suggest increased activity outside. The hunting party returns first, and you can tell from their voices that the hunt was successful. There's an energy in their conversation, a satisfaction that speaks of good fortune and skill rewarded. The returning hunters will need immediate access to fire for warming themselves and beginning the process of preparing their kill. You begin building up the fire in preparation for increased activity. More wood goes on the coals, arranged to provide both immediate flame and sustained burning. The evening fire needs to be larger and more active than the daytime maintenance fire. It must provide cooking heat, warm light, and social focus for the community's evening activities. The hunters enter the cave carrying portions of fresh meat, their faces showing the satisfaction of successful providers. The meat represents not just food but security, protein that will sustain the community and materials that will be processed into tools, clothing, and other essential items. The successful hunt triggers a complex series of activities that will occupy much of the evening. Meat must be processed quickly to prevent spoilage, with different portions prepared in different ways. Some will be cooked immediately for the evening meal, some will be prepared for smoking or drying, some will be processed into specialized foods like pemmican. Your fire suddenly becomes the center of intense activity as people organize cooking and processing tasks around its heat and light. You adjust the flame configuration to provide different temperature zones: high heat for searing meat, moderate heat for longer cooking processes, gentle heat for warming tools and materials. The processing of fresh meat requires sharp tools, clean working surfaces, and careful technique. Your people waste nothing. Muscle meat becomes food, bones become tools, sinew becomes thread, hide becomes leather, even blood is used for specific purposes. This complete utilization represents both practical necessity and cultural values that honor the animals that give their lives for human survival. You watch the systematic breakdown of the animal carcass, each cut made with purpose and precision. Different muscles have different characteristics and uses. Some are best for immediate consumption, others for long-term preservation. The fat content varies throughout the animal, affecting both taste and storage properties. Your people understand these differences through generations of experience and careful observation. The social dynamics around meat processing reflect complex cultural rules about sharing, cooperation, and status. Certain individuals receive recognition for their roles in the successful hunt, but the actual distribution of meat follows patterns designed to ensure everyone receives appropriate portions. Age, family relationships, pregnancy and nursing status, and individual contributions all factor into the distribution process. As evening approaches, the cave fills with the rich smells of cooking meat and the sounds of social activity. The fire you've tended all day now serves as the heart of community life, its warm light bringing people together after a day of separate activities. The cooking process itself is a careful orchestration of timing and technique. Different cuts of meat require different cooking methods. Some pieces are skewered on green wood sticks and held directly over flames for quick searing, others are wrapped in leaves and buried in coals for slow, even cooking. The fat renders slowly, creating a rich base that will be used for both flavoring and preservation. You notice how naturally people organize themselves around the fire, creating a circle that allows everyone to participate in conversation while staying warm. The seating arrangement isn't random. Elderly members occupy the choicest spots closest to heat, pregnant women settle where they can be most comfortable, children find places where they can see and learn from adult activities. Your sister-in-law begins preparing the plant foods gathered during the day: wild onions that will add flavor to the meat, bitter greens that provide essential nutrients, berries that offer sweetness and vitamins. The plant foods require their own specialized preparation. Some need cooking to remove toxins, others are best raw to preserve their nutritional content. The combination of plant and animal foods creates a more complete nutritional profile than either alone. Your people understand this balance instinctively, having learned through generations of experience which combinations provide sustained energy and health. The evening meal isn't just about filling stomachs but about providing the specific nutrients needed for recovery from the day's activities in preparation for tomorrow's challenges. As the food cooks, conversation flows around the fire. The hunters share details of their expedition, animal behavior they observed, changes in the landscape, weather signs that might affect future activities. The gatherers report on plant availability, seasonal changes, and the locations of promising resources for future harvests. This information sharing serves practical purposes beyond simple storytelling. Your people's survival depends on collective knowledge about their environment, and these evening conversations are how that knowledge gets shared, updated, and preserved. Each person's observations contribute to the community's overall understanding of the complex ecosystem that supports your lives. The fire's light reveals the subtle ways people interact with each other, the gentle touches that communicate affection and support, the automatic sharing of tools and materials, the quiet assistance provided to those who need help without being asked. These behaviors represent cultural values developed over thousands of years of small group living. Your youngest nephew sits mesmerized by the flames, watching the way fire transforms wood into light and heat. You remember your own childhood fascination with fire, the gradual understanding of its power and the responsibility that comes with controlling it. Fire tending skills are passed down through generations, but each firekeeper must develop their own relationship with this essential element. The cooking process requires constant attention and adjustment. You move coals to create different heat zones, add wood to maintain optimal burning, help position cooking implements at the right distances from flame and heat. The work is collaborative. Everyone contributes their knowledge and assistance to create the best possible meal from available ingredients. As meat reaches perfect doneness, people begin sharing the evening meal. The first portions go to those whose need is greatest: nursing mothers, growing children, elderly members whose bodies require extra nutrition. This isn't charity but cultural practice, reflecting values that prioritize community survival over individual advantage. The meat is incredibly flavorful, rich with the taste of wild game that has never known captivity or artificial feed. The plant foods provide contrasting textures and flavors that complement the protein. This is subsistence food, but it's also cuisine prepared with skill and eaten with appreciation for both its nutritional value and sensory pleasure. Between bites, conversation continues around the circle. Stories emerge from the day's experiences, encounters with animals, discoveries of useful plants, observations about weather and seasonal changes. But gradually the talk shifts toward more reflective topics: memories of previous years, speculation about the future, philosophical discussions about the meaning of various experiences. Your grandfather begins another story, this one about the origins of fire and how it came to be controlled by humans. The tale blends practical information about fire management with spiritual beliefs about humanity's relationship with natural forces. Like all traditional stories, it operates on multiple levels: entertainment, education, and cultural transmission. The firelight creates perfect conditions for storytelling, casting dramatic shadows and focusing attention on the speaker's face and gestures. Your grandfather's voice rises and falls with the narrative rhythm, using pauses and emphasis to maintain interest and highlight important points. This is performance art developed over thousands of years of oral tradition. You find yourself responsible for maintaining the fire throughout the storytelling session, adding fuel and adjusting the flame to provide consistent light without creating distracting flares or changes in heat. The work requires you to divide your attention between technical fire management and cultural participation, a balance that epitomizes your role in the community. As the story concludes, people begin the evening activities that prepare for rest and tomorrow's challenges. Tools are cleaned and organized, clothing is checked and repaired if necessary, sleeping areas are arranged for optimal warmth and comfort. These preparations aren't rushed but carried out with the methodical thoroughness that characterizes all survival-related activities. The fire gradually transitions from cooking and social focus to its overnight configuration. You begin the process of banking coals for the long night ahead, selecting slow-burning hardwoods and arranging them for sustained heat with minimal flame. Night fires serve different purposes than day fires. They provide security, warmth for sleeping, and the assurance that fire will be available for immediate use if emergencies arise. The banking process requires careful judgment about how much heat will be needed through the night. Too little, and people will be cold and uncomfortable. Too much, and precious fuel will be wasted while potentially creating unsafe conditions in the sleeping cave. The decision must account for outside temperature, wind conditions, the number of people sleeping near the fire, and the quality of available bedding. As you work, you're aware of the gradual settling that marks the transition to night activities. Conversations become quieter and more intimate, children are guided through bedtime routines, sleeping areas are prepared with careful attention to comfort and warmth. The day's activities wind down in preparation for the restorative period that sleep provides. Your mother helps arrange the sleeping furs, checking that everyone has adequate covering for the night's cold. The bedding itself represents enormous amounts of work: hides that were carefully processed, fur that was cleaned and preserved, plant materials that were gathered and prepared for softness and insulation. Each sleeping arrangement is customized for the individual's needs and the night's expected conditions. The elderly receive extra attention to ensure their comfort through the cold night. Their bodies don't generate heat as efficiently as younger people, and their joints may be stiff and painful in cold conditions. Additional furs, positions closer to the fire, and sometimes heated stones wrapped in soft materials help maintain their body temperature and comfort. Children are settled with particular care, their smaller bodies requiring extra protection from cold while their active sleep patterns need accommodation. Parents arrange bedding to allow for movement while maintaining warmth, position children where they'll be safe from accidental contact with the fire, and ensure that adult supervision is available if needed during the night. The pregnant women receive special consideration for their changing bodies and increased nutritional needs. Their sleeping positions are arranged for comfort, additional furs provide extra warmth, and positions relative to the fire are chosen to provide optimal temperature without overheating. The community's future literally depends on the health and safety of pregnant members. As people settle for sleep, the social dynamics shift once more. The public community activities of day and evening give way to family intimacy and individual rest. Couples speak quietly together, parents comfort restless children, individuals engage in personal rituals that prepare them for sleep and dreams. You continue tending the fire as others drift towards sleep, your movements becoming quieter and more minimal to avoid disturbing those already resting. The flames burn lower but steadier now, providing gentle warmth and soft light while consuming fuel at a sustainable rate through the long night ahead. The sounds of the cave change as people settle into sleep. Breathing becomes deeper and more regular, small movements decrease, conversations fade to whispers and then silence. But the cave never becomes completely quiet. There are always the subtle sounds of life, the gentle crackling of the fire, the soft sounds that indicate your community's continued presence and security. Your role as firekeeper extends through the night, requiring periodic attention to maintain optimal conditions for rest and warmth. The responsibility is both practical and symbolic. You literally keep the flame of life burning for your people, ensuring their safety and comfort through the vulnerable hours of sleep. As the night deepens, you find yourself in the meditative state that comes with long-term fire tending. Your body knows the rhythms of fuel consumption and heat distribution, allowing your conscious mind to drift into contemplation while maintaining automatic awareness of the fire's needs. The flames dance hypnotically, their patterns never quite repeating but following familiar themes and variations. Fire has been humanity's companion for hundreds of thousands of years, and watching flames connect you to that vast chain of human experience. Your ancestors sat by similar fires, facing similar challenges, finding similar comfort in the warmth and light that fire provides. The cave walls hold their ancient decorations, handprints and animal figures that speak of your people's deep connection to both the natural world and the human need to create meaning through art. These images represent more than decoration, they're expressions of identity, spirituality, and the fundamental human drive to understand and represent experience. In the gentle firelight, you can make out sleeping forms arranged around the cave: your family, your community, the people whose lives are intertwined with yours in a complex web of relationships that makes survival possible. Each person represents knowledge, skills, and perspectives that contribute to the group's collective ability to thrive in this challenging environment. Your mother sleeps peacefully, her face relaxed in the firelight. She represents the accumulated wisdom of generations of women who face the challenges of raising children and maintaining family life in harsh conditions. Her knowledge of food preparation, medicine, childcare, and social relationships forms part of the foundation that keeps your community stable. Your uncle, the master tracker, rests with the deep sleep of someone whose body has been challenged by physical exertion and whose mind has been engaged in complex problem solving. His ability to read animal behavior and environmental signs provides the information that makes successful hunting possible, translating into survival for everyone. The children sleep with the complete relaxation that comes from security and trust. They represent not just the future of your small band but the continuation of all human knowledge and culture. The skills they're learning, the stories they're absorbing, the values they're developing will determine how successfully humanity continues to adapt and thrive. As the night progresses, you maintain the quiet rhythm of fire tending, monitoring conditions, making small adjustments, ensuring steady warmth and security for your sleeping community. The work is both deeply practical and profoundly meaningful, connecting you to the most basic requirements of human survival while participating in the larger story of human cooperation and care. The fire burns steadily through the deep night hours, its warmth radiating outward to create the comfortable zone that makes restful sleep possible. You measure your success not in dramatic achievements but in the quiet continuity of warmth and light, the steady burning that represents security and life sustained against the challenges of an unforgiving environment. In the deepest part of the night, when the cold outside is most intense and the risks of failure most serious, you find yourself fully present in the essential work of keeping the flame alive. This is your contribution to humanity's ongoing survival, your role in the collaborative effort that makes civilization possible. The responsibility settles around you like a comfortable weight, serious but not burdensome, demanding but deeply satisfying. You are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what needs to be done, participating fully in the ancient human story of cooperation, skill, and care for each other. As the night deepens around your ancient fire, you begin to understand something profound about what it means to be human. Here, 40,000 years ago, your people already possessed the most important innovations of human civilization, not bronze or writing or agriculture, but something far more fundamental: the ability to work together, to share knowledge across generations, to create meaning and beauty even in the midst of survival's demands. The fire you tend tonight connects you to every human who has ever lived, every person who has taken responsibility for others' welfare, every individual who has chosen cooperation over competition, care over indifference. The flame flickering before you carries the same energy that powers modern cities, but more importantly, it represents the same human commitment to sustaining life and community. Your ancient ancestors weren't primitive beings stumbling towards civilization, they were fully human, possessing the same capacity for love, creativity, problem-solving, and wonder that defines humanity today. They faced challenges that would test modern people severely, yet they not only survived but created art, developed complex knowledge systems, and maintained social relationships that allowed their communities to thrive. The skills that define your life: observation, patience, cooperation, attention to detail, care for others, remain essential human qualities today. The technology has changed dramatically, but the fundamental human capacities that made survival possible in the Ice Age continue to make civilization possible now. As you tend your fire through this long night, you're participating in humanity's most basic act of civilization, taking responsibility for sustaining life and community. The warmth you maintain, the light you preserve, the security you provide represent the essence of what makes us human, our ability to care for each other across time and circumstance. Let the steady rhythm of fire tending slow your breathing, feel the ancient satisfaction of essential work well done, allow the warmth and light to surround you with security and peace. The flame burns steadily, just as human caring has burned steadily through all the centuries between that ancient cave and your modern world. Breathe deeply and let yourself settle into the profound rest that comes from knowing your place in the long human story. Feel the connection to all those who have taken responsibility for others' welfare. Rest in the security that human cooperation and care make possible. Sleep now, warmed by the same fire that has sustained humanity through all our challenges. Rest well, connected to the ancient and eternal human capacity for love, cooperation, and care. Sleep now. Rest well.